Thank you so much for being here today. We have an awesome session planned. I'm really, really excited to have you all. This is the third time we've done this session, and each year I think it's been a really incredible resource for students who are either in their MBA programs or figuring out if they want to be and how all of that fits together with their climate career goals. And so, yeah, really, really happy to have you here today. I'm Jessica Winger, the program lead for ClimateCAP based out of Duke's Fuqua School of Business. And as the world around us continues to change rapidly, it's become increasingly important that all MBA graduates, regardless of their role or industry, need to understand climate and its broader economic and social implications in order to succeed in their careers. And so in today's session, we're going to talk through many of the different ways that you can build skills in climate expertise during your MBA and prepare yourself to be a leader that contributes to those climate solutions. So I'm going to start by going over our agenda for the day. We're going to start with a brief set of introductions for our ClimateCAP, and I'll talk a little bit more about the program broadly, just very, very quickly. And then we'll have introductions from the representatives from our schools. Actually, I'm sorry, we're going to do that first. The participating schools introduce themselves and their schools, but the bulk of our time together is going to be in a round robin question and answer session, where each school is going to provide an answer to some of the most common questions that we hear from students who are interested in this topic. And so our school representatives are going to be answering those questions at a high level, talking about the general MBA experience. And they're going to be saving any kind of school-specific information for the breakout sessions that we're going to have at the end. And then once we do answer all those general questions, we'll open up the breakout rooms for the remainder of the session, where you can hop in and out of rooms as you'd like to speak with representatives from the different programs. So that's the plan. We're going to start, like I said, with our quick introductions, and we're going to go alphabetically by school on the screen so everybody knows where we are. Lauren, would you like to kick us off by introducing yourself, your role, and your school?
Sure. Great to have, or great to see everybody here today. Great to be here. So Lauren Bassick, I'm the Administrative Director of Climate Change and Business Initiatives here at Columbia University. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Katie Cross. I'm Managing Director of the Center for Energy Development and the Global Environment, EDGE, at the Fuqua School of Business at Duke.
Hi, welcome everyone. My name is Brian Goebel. I serve as the Managing Director of the Business and Society Institute at Emory University here in Atlanta.
Hi, everyone. My name is Leanne Statuto. I'm the Executive Director of the Responsible Business Center based at Fordham University's Gabelli School of Business. And I'm also here with my colleague, Joe, if you want to do a quick intro as well.
Hi, everybody. Joe Diegues, Director of Career Development here at Gabelli School of Business.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining. My name is Elise Clarkson. I'm the Community Manager at the Business and Environment Initiative at Harvard Business School.
Hi, everybody. My name is Marie-Pierre. I'm French. I'm a Project Director for the Climate and Earth Center at HEC Paris in France. And I'm here with my colleague Idris Sakik from HEC as well.
Hi everyone, Idris Sadek. I'm an MBA alum from HEC Paris and currently a venture recruitment analyst at the Creative Destruction Lab.
Hi, everybody. My name is Jen Graham. I'm Senior Associate Director of the MIT Sloan Sustainability Initiative. Thank you so much for joining.
Hi, everyone. My name is Valeria Wiens. I am Director on the Stanford Graduate School of Business MBA admissions team. Thanks for joining.
Hi, everyone. My name is Melissa Zaksik. I'm the Managing Director of the Urban Institute at the University of Michigan. We're a partnership between the Ross School of Business and the School for Environment and Sustainability. And I'm here with my colleague, who will also introduce herself.
Hi, everyone. I'm Melissa Coveney, and I'm the Student Affairs Manager here at the Urban Institute.
So you get two Melissas for the price of one.
Hi, everyone. Great to see you all today. My name is Jillian Emory. I'm the Director of Student Programs at the Impact, Value, and Sustainable Business Initiative at the Wharton School.
I'm Maggie Morse. I'm at the Institute for Business and Society at UVA's Darden School of Business, and I'm here also with my colleague, Becky.
Hi, everyone. Becky Duff. I'm a Director of Thought Leadership at the Batten Institute and also co-lead of the school's Sustainability Advisory Council.
Hello, team. Stu Q from the Yale Center for Business and the Environment, which is a joint initiative between the Yale School of Management and the Yale School of the Environment. I'm the executive director here, and I also lead lab to market work across the entire university from the Planetary Solutions Impact Accelerator for faculty who are commercializing technology and climate tech. Great to be here.
Thank you. That was incredibly efficient. Well done,
Yeah.
everyone.
Jessica, I realized that we have
Go
two
ahead.
more colleagues from HEC who joined, Pooja
Go
and
ahead.
Nati. Maybe we can give them a second. Pooja,
Go
do
ahead.
you want to go on?
Emory Pierre, no, that's all right. I can introduce myself quickly. So I'm Pooja Prabhushankar. I'm an associate director for talent development, which is the career center at HEC. Nice to see you all.
Hi everyone.
Nati?
Last but not the least, I'm Uniti. I'm joining in again with HEC Paris as the recruitment manager. So I'm here to answer any questions about admissions and how we can help on the MBA process. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much. And I just want to make a quick note that our representative from UC Berkeley Haas had a last minute conflict and won't be able to attend today. So you do have their contact information in the school's bios that we sent out on Monday. If you'd like to connect with them directly, or I'm happy to just reach out to me and I can connect you with them if you have any specific questions for them at the end of the session. So quick intro to ClimateCAP, and then we'll get into our round robin. A lot of you are new to ClimateCAP, and so I just really wanted to give you a snapshot of the broader program. We were founded with a mission to prepare tomorrow's business leaders, which is you all, future leaders in MBAs, to understand and respond to the climate challenge by mainstreaming the climate conversation in business schools. ClimateCAP was founded and is led here by us at Fuqua, but we are a global partnership of now 54 business schools. And hopefully you can see by those that are here on the call today, we work really closely with the staff and faculty at our partner schools on a number of different initiatives, including our MBA Summit, our MBA Fellowship, and our virtual learning content. If you haven't yet signed up for our mailing list, please make sure you do. You're going to want to be aware of all of these events that are coming up in the next few months. Want to highlight briefly a few of those key events. Each year, our MBA Summit is our flagship event, bringing together hundreds of MBA students from around the country to network and learn about climate and business. Many students cite this as a highlight of their MBA experience, getting the chance to come together with like-minded students from around the world to network and learn about climate and business leadership. Our most recent summit was hosted by MIT Sloan in late April, and we're really excited to be heading to New York City next February for the 2027 at Fordham Gabelli. Tickets for the summit will go on sale this fall, so be sure you're signed up for the mailing list so you can hear about the speakers, agenda, and ticket sales when they happen. And if you're curious what this event has looked like in the past, recordings of all of the summits, including MIT, and the agendas are available on our website. Next, I wanted to highlight the ClimateCAP MBA Fellowship, which empowers our group of fellows to become the next generation of climate leaders and change makers each year. You can see on the slide the smiling faces of our current cohort, the 15 fellows for 2026. Key elements of the fellowship include learning and development sessions, networking, and self-directed project work, where students design and implement a climate action project. And throughout the fellowship, students receive mentorship and attend cohort building activities as well. The applications for the next cohort will open in the fall of 2026, and that will also be announced through our mailing list. And then lastly, I want to mention a really exciting program that's coming up in July, and that is Climate Catalyst. So this is a free and very exciting pre-MBA experience designed to give incoming MBAs a head start on the careers at the intersection of business and climate. We'll be releasing the detailed agenda for 2026 very soon, but you can see the 2025 sessions on our website, including the recordings of a few of them. Really, regardless of where you're looking to go in your career, whether it's a pivot into climate, integrating sustainability into your existing path, or just understanding the climate implications of business, this is a really fantastic virtual program that's going to help you get ahead before classes even begin. So registration for that session is open now. There's a link on your screen, and also Katie threw it up in the chat. This is open to any current or incoming MBA students, so those who have accepted and deposited into a program but haven't necessarily started, as well as any MBA educators. We'd love to see you there. And that's it for me. So if you have any questions about any of the ClimateCAP programming, feel free to reach out after the session. And I'll also be staying here in the main room during the breakouts, so I can answer any of those questions in real time. But now we're going to transition to our round robin of questions about integrating climate into your MBA. As I mentioned at the start, we've picked some of the common questions that we collectively get to hear from prospective and incoming students, and each representative is going to be answering one of those questions. Feel free to jot any specific questions that you have for the different programs, and then you'll have plenty of time to get those answered in the breakouts. And with that, we're going to start with our first question, which happens to be for Columbia. I'm passionate about solving the climate crisis. Why should I get an MBA? And what does business training uniquely offer that other graduate degrees don't? Lauren?
Of course. So in talking with our faculty, I think we want to first start by saying that, approaching the climate crisis from a business perspective just makes sense because mitigating and adapting to climate change is primarily a business challenge. I think the students hit that home in a lot of their education here. The majority of greenhouse gases are a result of indirect or direct business activity, and therefore businesses can innovate and scale those climate solutions. The investors can finance those solutions. And so we look at climate change as a primary business problem. As far as your MBA, I think it's the ideal degree for learning. So you learn in your courses entrepreneurship, venture capital, and then in other courses how to scale what you would be doing if you were going into climate tech or things like that, courses in management, finance, all of the core courses, marketing and things like that. They kind of give you that core of business functions. So both kind of combined give you the knowledge and the skills that you would need to tackle the climate crisis from that business perspective that is so important. I think lastly, even if you weren't incredibly passionate about solving the climate crisis, which you are because you're here today, it is a macro global trend that is going to affect all businesses for at least the next couple decades. And so really, if you're interested in a career in business, if you want to get your MBA, you would need to know about climate, at least from that perspective as a global macro trend, just like any others. And so those are the couple things that here at Columbia, and I think my colleagues would agree, of why getting an MBA is important and one way that you could bring your climate passion to your degree.
Thank you so much. Our next question, what considerations do I need to have when evaluating impactful post-MBA career paths, and are there any tools to help me evaluate those paths? Katie?
Awesome. Hi, everyone. Thank you to Lauren for kicking us off. I totally agree on all of those fronts, why an MBA is useful to solving the climate crisis and contributing in a meaningful career. There are, as you know, a lot of factors that will go into your decision about a post-MBA career. Sometimes in addition to this question, I'll get asked a question, which industry should I work in after graduation if I want to have the most impact on climate? Or which industry has the most jobs available? And my answer to you all is that this landscape of possibilities for your career is really big. There are a lot of different ways you could take those MBA skills in finance, marketing, strategy, supply chain, business development, and make a meaningful impact on climate solutions. So the challenge for you is not to figure out like the one right industry or best prospect, but instead to figure out what part of the climate career landscape interests you the most. Is that a particular energy technology or carbon adaptation technology? Is it a particular industry or set of stakeholders that you're excited about working with? Is that a particular problem that you're really interested in helping the world solve? And then ask yourself, what can I do while I'm getting my MBA to make myself uniquely qualified to contribute in this area after graduation? So just to give you, in terms of tools, a little bit of sense of the landscape, I will put in the chat, ClimateCAP has a map of some of the example employers mapped around the possible levers of change in the climate impact solutions. And I think this is a useful starting point. There are also a bunch of other resources that I'll also copy into the chat right now that are good starting places for just kind of learning about some of the other possible career paths and ways to have an impact in your career. The number one thing you can do at the start is just talk with as many people as possible. So find some second year MBAs, find some recent MBA alumni, ask them about the work they do, ask them about what they love about it, what they find rewarding, what skills it requires, and then try to solve for this, like where do I want to contribute? And then also how can I take my own sort of personal, unique perspective and put that towards a specific career path that I'm passionate about.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. For our next question, how are current market and political dynamics affecting climate hiring and career trajectories? What are the trends? Stu?
Great. So here's a small one that I'll go over quickly. So I think first off, just like anybody who tells you that they've got this kind of wrapped up in a neat box, I would take it with a large grain of salt. So please take everything I'm saying with a grain of salt as well. The first question to ask, I think, here is actually what are the market and political dynamics going to be 2 to 3 years from now? And that's basically impossible to predict, but where do you start getting an indication of, okay, when I'm graduating, what are things going to look like then? And what are the kind of changes and shifts in industries that are going to be going on? And what does that mean? And so then I think look for kind of some principles or things that you know in the world are happening and you see as having a trajectory. Like, for example, we're about to invest about $3 trillion globally in the energy transition this year, up significantly from the previous year. Like the pace and scale and growth of what some people have called the electro stack of different types of technologies, battery, solar, wind, electric vehicles, a range of different types of brushless motors and other things that are coming together provide whole new sets of technology packages that are providing careers and industries and transforming areas. You see massive capex in the United States and planned around the world for data center growth that is pushing transformation in the utility sector. You see huge shifts politically where trust is actually not all that common. You see declining levels of trust around the world in lots of major institutions. One thing that MBAs and the MBA community is really good is for injecting hope and optimism and a plan where there may not be necessarily a great deal of hope. And you see like countries kind of like reshoring or onshoring or changing supply chains. So does that actually fit a trend on circular economy or something where you're going to see more, higher, better resource use at a national level? I mean, you can think about all these things, but I would just say really get started and find some of the guides and people that you would say are the ones who you want to track and follow. And so I'll just give you like a few here that I would say, like, all right, from my own perspective on energy, like, well, what does it look like to think about the long-term trends on energy? Go take a look at Ember's work. Like, if you're really thinking about an investment thesis globally, Jeff Curry at the Carlyle Group and their energy transition has done a remarkable job of mapping some of that out. If you want to think about what climate intuition broadly, find the climate scientist who's working in finance, like Sarah Kapnick, or go track and understand like the daily, weekly trends with heat map news. Like you have to be thinking more forward about these rather than in the kind of current state. And I'll leave it there.
Thank you. I always like the shout out to hope and optimism, so appreciate appreciate that. For our next question, what type of organizations do most MBAs go into besides traditional companies? Do MBAs go into startups, VCs, development finance, NGOs, etc.? Valeria.
Thank you, Jessica. And I love how these questions build on each other. So my answer will also build a little bit out of my colleague shared. I think if you zoom out and think about it a little bit more broadly, MBAs usually focus on like business development, product management, strategy consulting, finance, operations, right? There's a whole breadth of roles. Now, one thing all of these have in common is that you can find them in almost any organization. Traditional companies still tend to hire or be the biggest destination just in terms of numbers, right? So if you think about large energy companies, utilities, industrials, consulting firms, bank, tech, like all of the companies that are dealing with decarbonization, supply chains, energy transition, ESG related strategy. Now, in addition to those, there's a large number or a meaningful number of MBAs that then also go into startups, right? So particularly climate tech, clean energy. So think battery storage, think grid technology, food systems. So there's a whole ecosystem around it. I guess to zoom out then is if you look at any of our schools and if you look at the employment reports and outcomes, there might be like one line or percent, a couple of percentages that say energy, but actually there's many, many students that then to go into VC or finance or consulting and will be embedded in energy specific or climate or sustainability specific roles there. So that's probably the first thing. And then the second thing to keep in mind is that AI and energy storage are also drastically expanding the scope of opportunities that are available to MBAs in the space, right? So there's a big, big infrastructure story there. There's a lot of movement happening in that space. And so to get back to what my colleagues were sharing, I think for you, it's just important to figure out sort of what is the lens that you bring, what is your unique skill set and value proposition, and then what are you most excited about? And then start going after those opportunities because they're not hiding, but they're dispersed pretty much across the entire industry wherever you look.
That's great advice, and I really want to highlight your point about the employment reports. Definitely important to look at, but not necessarily telling the full picture. I think that's where you're
Exactly.
talking to schools and alumni gives you a much better idea of where all these pieces fit. Thank you. Next question. How is AI changing climate work for MBAs in terms of skills needed, jobs available, and the problems that are now more tractable? Jen?
Thanks so much, Jess. As was previously mentioned, MIT Sloan just hosted the most recent ClimateCAP summit last month, and this topic was front and center across multiple sessions. So rather than me speak abstractly, I thought I would share what our speakers actually told us. And so I organized what they shared into 3 areas: skills, jobs, and tractable problems. So on skills, the consistent message wasn't to learn how to code. It was to learn to think differently. And within that, 3 themes came up repeatedly. The first is that AI literacy paired with critical thinking is more important than ever. Specifically, the ability to question AI outputs and ensure that errors don't propagate into high stakes decisions. Second was systems thinking. So asking not what task can AI automate, but instead, where in the system does AI create leverage? Because climate challenges are interconnected. And so students who can see across organizational and sector boundaries will be the ones who identify where AI intervention actually moves the needle, rather than just optimizing isolated pieces of a broken system. And then third, and perhaps most surprisingly, was change management. So as AI reshapes operational workflows, the people who thrive will be those who can guide organizations through transitions, who can influence stakeholders and act as change agents inside complex institutional structures. So just to recap on skills: critical thinking alongside AI literacy, systems thinking, and change management are going to be 3 necessary skills to develop for the next phase of your career. On jobs, the framing that stuck with me actually came from the fireside chat that I facilitated with 2 chief sustainability officers. And you've heard this message already from some of my colleagues, but sustainability is increasingly embedded into roles across business functions. It's showing up in areas like product development, operations, finance. So sustainability skills are no longer sitting only with a dedicated sustainability team. The most powerful positions may be in areas like engineering or technology, where someone who can connect AI capabilities with decarbonization goals, rather than waiting for a centralized sustainability team, will really thrive. And we're also seeing more hybrid roles, combining deep domain expertise with the ability to leverage AI, as well as a genuine entrepreneurial opportunity for people willing to build new AI products inside energy and climate sectors. The takeaway for students on jobs is not to wait for a job title that says AI or sustainability in the title. The opportunity is to bring both lenses into whatever role you land in, and that combination is still rare enough to be a genuine differentiator. And then lastly, on tractable problems, this is where I think the news is actually most exciting. And the pattern across all of our sessions was pretty consistent. AI is compressing timelines, it's unlocking resources, and making previously unmanageable complexity actually manageable. So, life cycle assessments that used to take months are now taking only about a week, freeing sustainability teams to focus on strategy rather than data processing. Predictive maintenance on grid infrastructure is getting meaningfully better. AI is being used to discover previously identified geothermal resources. And perhaps the most striking statistic that was shared during the summit, a 2025 Siemens study found that 60% of executives identify AI as a key to their decarbonization goals over the next 5 years. One of our speakers also flagged a large underappreciated opportunity, which is retrofitting existing housing and infrastructure. The technology to improve efficiency is available. The challenge to solving the agency problems, like aligning a landlord and tenant incentives to make upgrades economically viable. AI can help accelerate that, but it requires MBAs who understand both the financial structures and the systems at play. So, as you think about your career, I would treat these problems as a guide. Wherever AI is making a hard climate challenge more tractable, that's where organizations are also looking for people with the skills to lead it. And the through line across all of this, AI is not replacing climate professionals, it's raising the ceiling on what a well-prepared climate professional can accomplish. If you're interested in watching any of the content from the 2026 summit, I'll drop a link in the chat here in a moment to the ClimateCAP YouTube channel where you can watch all of the sessions. Thank you so much.
Fantastic, Jen. I was just thinking the same thing. I had prepped the link while you were speaking
Perfect.
about the summit. The link I just shared, Jen's got directly to the YouTube. The one I shared has the agenda. You can see who the speakers were that Jen was just referencing. So there's a ton of information about the summit more broadly between those two links. So I hope you check them out. Thank you. Next question. How important is it to develop a climate specialty or sector focus versus staying generalist early in your career? Brian?
Thank you, Jessica. The age-old question of specialists versus generalists, right? It's something that I think every generation of students discusses, but I will say, our alumni and professionals and probably all of us kind of debate that because I don't think there's a easy answer. I think the answer is most often it depends or both. And I think one thing I just want to start us off with is, reminding everyone that your time in business school is not just about getting your next job. It's about some of the longer term reasons that you're investing so much time and money into this really important, milestone moment of your leadership and growth. So remember to kind of think about, building upon the experience you bring. You all bring amazing experiences, education networks to the schools you're going to. So don't forget those. And business school is about, understanding what problems you care about, right? Asking yourself really important questions, but also understanding the systems that many of those challenges are embedded. We've heard a lot about systems thinking today already. And then lastly, it's about building skills, habits, and relationships that are going to allow you to navigate the many jobs that you're going to have in front of you. And so this is really kind of doubling down on that growth and lifelong learning mindset, because there's always going to be that next innovation, those winds, those currents, the change that you'll navigate as a leader. So, during business school, we find that many of our students here at Emory, and I'm assuming all MBA programs, want to work in climate and sustainability. Typically, we encourage them to start really broad and then intentionally narrow. And so, like Katie had mentioned, whether it's these summer months or when you get on campus, it's never too early to start talking to lots of people and kind of exploring those networks to get perspective. But we feel like narrowing is very important as well, because it's going to really help you to simplify decision-making on where you're going to invest your most valuable resource as an MBA, which is time. There's going to be so many things that is put in front of you academically, but co-curricular and outside in all your peer networks. And there's going to be a lot of pressure to do everything. And I will say that's typically impossible. So, just narrowing and finding, your passion and focus will help make that decision-making a little bit easier for you. if you can narrow, it really helps you to clarify your interests and really helps the people that are here on campus to help you, right? You have amazing faculty and staff and career center, you have alumni, you have fellow students and peers that all want to see you succeed in your climate and sustainability career. So if you can describe what you're most interested in, those networks will open a lot more easily for you. And then just thirdly, narrowing helps you to accelerate the ability to identify the sectors, the companies, the organizations, the people that you want to target and talk to. And a lot of those kind of assets are kind of hidden in plain sight in the MBA world. They might not be showing up on your campus. They might not be the things that your school is talking about, but they are here and they are present. And so unlocking that is typically through focus and people and relationships. And at the same time, it's really important as we think about the intersectional systems that climate is embedded into, to also be a generalist and appreciate a general understanding of the broad interconnected nature of the climate change challenge and solutions. So I will say, lean into the Climate Catalyst program that is going to teach you about basic climate science and natural systems. It's really important for you to understand that, even if that's not something we talk about in business. If we don't understand how atmospheric science works, if we don't understand greenhouse gases and those systems, we're never going to be able to really be thoughtful business leaders. So getting smart and broad on those broader kind of things like terminology and measurements, policy and regulation, which we've heard from today as well. And then just appreciating the intersections of the issue, challenge, and opportunity, whether that's health and climate or communities and climate injustice. There's all kinds of change and adoption that really sits at that nuanced human behavior level. And then I will say, I think lastly, we just encourage our students to grow where you're planted. Kind of look around. What are your professors working on? How can you be part of that? Tap into it. Which classmates can you not only learn from, but join forces with to kind of go on this journey with you? Look closely at where your alumni are doing and what they're doing. I would say most of them are really happy to lean in and give you advice and support. They love to see more people be climate smart leaders from their school. And then just look at what industries or what kind of ecosystems are really kind of blooming in your city and region that you can be a part of, contribute, and activate in. So that's what I would say to kind of look at. Obviously, it's a bit of both, specialize and define your interests, but also be broad enough to plug in and be effective. And ClimateCAP, I think, is a great resource in terms of finding community, finding authentic resources, and finding opportunities, not just as an MBA, but as you start and grow your career.
Thank you so much. For our next question, for students interested in climate entrepreneurship, what does the funding and support landscape look like right now? And what should students be doing in school to set themselves up to found or join an early stage climate venture? Marie-Pierre?
I'll take it.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. So just in terms of support, I mean, being in the EU for quite some time now, there's no shortage of support. The EU is quite public on the regulations and fund schemes that they have. But then the question is, how much of it is executable and implementable in current industry? I think a lot of people forget that you have an existing industry at the moment that takes up most of the space, and this isn't going anywhere. It can't just disappear. And what you find is that, especially for myself, so working within the Creative Destruction Lab, we've just sort of reached our closing sessions, but a lot of the startups or the entrepreneurial pursuits that are able to pinpoint pain points with the customers and existing industry, they can quite easily find funding. Of course, you do get grassroots ideas, so completely new projects, but here it's quite a bit more difficult because no one's really looking to overhaul the entire system. Investors always want to try and de-risk investments, and then you also have like an entire financial system that's based on annual compensation and bonuses. So startups that are entering the field, it's more feasible if they try and address pain points with the existing industry. If you then consider what should students be doing during the school period or the MBA program, I'll say, as other people have mentioned, being more involved with the industry that's currently present. So arranging interviews, trying to maximize their engagement with professionals. I think I discovered it quite late, but it's quite easy now. So when you're in the MBA program, you have a platform, and then reaching out to professionals becomes a lot more easier. You have a reputation behind you. Um, so doing cold approaches, that's something that's feasible quite early on in your MBA program, and then sort of accelerates your progress after the MBA program. You also get to decide, get to find out who your decision makers are. I mean, in a company, you might have a sustainability office, but through interviews, it's more likely that you'll determine who the decision makers are and who actually controls decisions when you're implementing a new solution. The sustainability officer is usually just the influencer, same as executives. They obviously have a high influence, but really you do want to just try and meet the performance, replace an incumbent that already exists, instead of overhauling or just changing the entire system. Cool.
Thank you so much. Next question. What are the best ways to build climate expertise outside the classroom? Experiential learning, case competitions, mentored projects, conferences. What's worth your time? Jillian?
Thanks, Jessica. So yeah, of course, participating in extracurricular activities is a fantastic way to gain more climate expertise, regardless of where you find yourselves in your climate and career journey. These are some of the best schools out there on this call, and so you're going to be learning from some wonderful scholars and academics. But I think taking what you're learning in the classroom and bringing it to the next level on hands-on projects or competitions or challenges is really beneficial for you to really dive into those topics more and help set you up for what comes next. I'll also add that all of the schools represented here have wonderful programs for their own students, but many of the schools here also offer programs for students of other schools too. So check those out in addition to the ClimateCAP resources and opportunities that are, of course, across the consortium. So when thinking about what is worth your time, I would kind of ask yourself two questions. First is how much climate expertise do you come with, right? Are you new to this field or are you a career switcher? If so, you might want to sample a bunch of things, maybe with shorter time commitments at the beginning of your MBA journey, right? Maybe you want to go to some speaker series or networking sessions, kind of these shorter events and learning opportunities that will give you a quick overview of different topics and different careers within climate that will help you kind of narrow down your specific field and interest. Or maybe you're coming to business school having studied similar fields in undergrad, or maybe you've worked in this sector before. And in that case, you might want to explore more time-intensive experiences, things like maybe consulting projects or competitions. So it's kind of the first, thing you want to ask yourself is, what knowledge am I bringing to business school, and what do I need to kind of work on still? And the second is, and Brian touched upon this, but how much time do you think you will have? It's going to be really easy to overload your schedule. You're taking exciting classes, you're meeting cool people, you're signing up for all these clubs and activities. But my suggestion is really to hone in on just the few things that you think you'll have time to do well. Right, you want to be able, hopefully, to put some of these experiential learning opportunities on your resume. And so, if you're asked about it in an interview, you want to feel confident about what you learned, what you got out of the experience, what you contributed to the experience. And if you're stretching yourself really thin and only kind of giving minimal effort to a lot of things, you might not really be doing yourself any favors. So, overall, be sure to take stock of what your program and your school offers. Pay attention to opportunities that are open to students of other schools, either through ClimateCAP itself or any of these member schools featured here today. And then do an honest self-assessment of what skills or knowledge you feel in need of and how much time you reasonably have to build on them. And a tip that I know that's come up in a lot of these answers that you'll hear probably plenty more times is reach out to other students or second years who may have participated in these programs in the past. Of course, we're always going to give the most glowing reviews and we want you to join all these exciting opportunities. But we know that sometimes hearing from other students who've gone through it and have balanced it with other commitments can be the most helpful. So that would be my advice to you all.
Some really good advice right there. Thank you for sharing. Next question. What external learning resources, podcasts, books, newsletters, websites do you find most valuable? And which conferences or industry events are worth attending as a student? Elise?
Sure. Thanks everyone for joining. So this is quite a task to kind of dig through all the resources that are out there, and I do encourage anyone on this call to drop any things that they really enjoy in the chat as well, because obviously I can't cover it all. In terms of podcasts, our faculty chair, Mike Toffel, hosts the Climate Rising podcast, which is a specific podcast about the intersection of business and climate change. And what I really like about that podcast, aside from it being produced by our team, is that he ends each episode with asking the guests about advice they have for current students looking for jobs in the field. So that's a really great resource for you. Another podcast, Outrage and Optimism. You've probably heard about a lot of seasons out there. They cover a wide range of topics. A Matter of Degrees, that's like more of a storytelling podcast. And I'll drop this all in the chat afterward. Books, of course, Profession and Purpose. That's by Katie Cross on the call here. She has like over 13 years of experience advising students in this. So really go grab it. It's so useful. Another resource, a book that might be useful for you is Disciplined Entrepreneurship for Climate and Energy. That's developed at MIT. It's kind of a reference book. It offers like a step-by-step framework if you're interested in pursuing climate entrepreneurship specifically. A Concise Guide to Business and Climate Change. That's by Gunnar Trumbull, an HBS professor. Again, that's like a business and climate change guide. Newsletters, one that you might not have heard of is Probable Futures. So they are a climate literacy initiative. And so they offer a lot of like open source data and maps that you can kind of play around with. You can play around with like heat maps and kind of look at different scenarios in terms of like how different climate impacts will impact different parts of the world. He's an executive fellow here at HBS and is a PhD grad from Harvard and an incredibly smart resource. Heat Map Daily, I think somebody dropped that in the chat. That's another great newsletter if you haven't signed up for it. Coverage of all sorts of climate politics, clean tech, energy transition. Definitely get on that list. And what's great about all these resources is you can sign up for them, and if you can kind of then chip away. As everyone said, your time is precious. And so, sign up for these things and then find out what speaks to you and then, kind of pursue those. In terms of events, obviously ClimateCAP, that's the only event that I'm aware of that's specific for MBA students interested in this. So really, and oftentimes for things like ClimateCAP or any of the other events, talk to your school, talk to your student club. They can often help you find subsidized tickets and things like that. So definitely tap into the resources at your school. But ClimateCAP, Climate Week in New York and San Francisco is a great one. There's also Sarah Week in Houston. That happens in March. That's more of like an energy focused. Trellis Impact, which is formerly Green Biz, and Aspen Ideas. And of course, there's COP and Davos, but those are really tough to get into, but they usually have some of the content online afterwards. So definitely tap into that. That's not even everything, but I'm going to drop a bunch of this in the chat, and I see people are dropping theirs in the chat as well. So
thank you so much, Elise. Next, we have what networking strategies do you recommend for building a strong climate-focused professional network, especially when many climate employers don't recruit on campus? Joe or Leanne, both?
Yeah, hi, we'll tag team this. So hi everyone, Leanne. I'm gonna kind of touch on a few things that have been mentioned already. What I want to start with when you start to network is something that Brian had said of really understanding what part of the climate ecosystem you want to be a part of. It really helps when you're then networking and you're like, oh, I really want to be in climate finance, or oh, I want to be in regenerative agriculture. It helps to really understand what part of this you should start to reach out to in your networking approaches. LinkedIn is going to be a huge friend of yours. Katie had mentioned talk to as many people as possible, and I could not agree with that more. I think specifically with LinkedIn, it's a huge opportunity to really look at all of the different jobs that are out there, who has those jobs, how they got there, and from my experience, I was formerly an MBA. I've seen a lot of success in reaching out. It is cold calls, not everyone answers, but in doing some of those LinkedIn emails, it allows you to get some of that on the, direct information from the folks that have gotten those roles and how. And what we've seen time and time again, and in my experience as well, is it's a small network once you get into the climate and sustainability space. And so once you kind of know someone, they probably know someone else. And so always follow up and see if there's someone that they can then connect you with. Another thing that I'm glad this question came right after Elise is really there's so many events. And a lot of the work that you'll do in this is getting to know people through active networking. And so whether you're in New York City and going to Climate Week, I know there's Climate Weeks across the country and now across the world a little bit, is to really go to events. Beyond just events, there's so many webinars online. And I think a lot of folks that go on these webinars, they want people to reach out to them too. And not everyone always follows up with those speakers. And so feel free to follow up on a LinkedIn and say, hey, I saw you on this, would love to connect. Having that personal aspect really makes a difference. And beyond that, there's just so many different climate communities you can join within your own neighborhood, right? So whether it's a local climate activism group, whether there's so many happy hours. I'm speaking from New York City, so there's a lot of things, but I'm sure in all of your different areas as well. And so specifically on that, let those conversations compound. And so feel free to follow up with people afterwards, and see if they can connect you with someone. Joe, on our career development side, can you add some color too?
Yeah, I can definitely add some color. I mean, when I thought of this question, I mean, there's three things that really came to mind. I think when it comes to the importance of building out your network and who that should be comprised of. So when you're thinking about specific individuals, when you're building out that network, reaching out to founders, NGOs, policy professionals, it's being very intentional with that outreach. I think with using LinkedIn as well, I think it's something I stress a lot to students, especially in here on the career development side, is that when you use LinkedIn, it's not just only like sending messages out, it's also engaging in conversations and dialogues that's happening too. I think that's something that's very important, especially within this space. The other thing I would say is when it comes to saying you're interested in this space, like you shouldn't just say you're interested in sustainability. I think like a good example is if you have a student that says, I'm interested in finance, well, there's so many layers that you can peel back about what it is you're interested in finance, or I'm interested in marketing. So being even more specific, saying you're interested in carbon markets, maybe you're interested in sustainable finance. So being able to be a little bit more intentional and be a little bit more direct as well is something that really stands out in that regards. I think the last thing here is when it comes to identifying jobs, I call this the hidden job market. I think a lot of the times when people are seeking these roles, it's not just the normal process of seeing an application open and applying to it. A lot of it is through your network. I think a lot of the times these roles become available, and when they do become available at said companies, they're thinking about who they've had discussions with, who they've had conversations with. I mean, every role that I've come across, it's not because the role was posted, it was because somebody in my network thought of me for the position. And this is very true in this space as well. So it's about building relationships, but it's also about maintaining them as well. And I think especially thinking about it over an MBA journey, there's going to be so many individuals that you come across on your first day in your MBA program, but really that relationship comes to fruition at a later date because of continuous conversations. It's because of continuous dialogue for those reasons.
Thank you, Joe. Leanne. Next question. I believe we have two more questions. If I take a traditional post-MBA role, consulting, banking, brand management, are there meaningful ways to bring climate impact into that work? How can I transition back to climate for my next role? Maggie, Becky.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Thank you for being here. This is going to be, I think, maybe a repeat or layering on of a lot of what has previously been said, but I would say with this traditional is in quotes because as I think we can all agree, the post-MBA career paths today are much broader and flexible, and they span a wide range of industries, functions, and impact areas. An important mindset shift is recognizing that climate is no longer confined to climate jobs. Again, climate change already shapes and it will continue to shape nearly every industry, business function, and leadership decision. So whether you go into consulting, banking, brand management, operations, technology, you will encounter climate-related challenges and opportunities. And that's, supply chain resilience, energy transition, sustainable finance, again, repeating so many of these of what you're going to see, regulation, risk management. So I think like the question becomes less about or whether climate can be part of a traditional MBA role and more about how intentionally you choose to engage with it. And I think we've heard that word throughout everybody is, what's your focus? What's your intention? And while it might sound a bit trite, there's real value in following the work that genuinely motivates you. So people tend to have the greatest long-term impact when they build careers around your strengths and sense of purpose. And that can mean seeking out companies with credible sustainability commitments, choosing projects that align with your values, and also surrounding yourself with leaders who see climate not just as a risk to manage, but one of an opportunity for long term. So ultimately, you have to be intentional about where you work, what projects you seek out, and how you position yourself for the next move. That being said, how do you bring climate impact into some traditional MBA roles? Consulting, join firms or teams focused on decarbonization, energy transition, sustainability strategy, or climate risk. Seek projects that involve net zero strategies, supply chain decarbonization, scope 3 emissions, energy transition. And over time, build a reputation internally as someone with climate expertise, so you're the one who's tapped for any of these projects. Banking or investing, focus on, we just heard, how much how much money is being invested. Energy transition, infrastructure finance, sustainable finance groups, work on renewables, storage, EV infrastructure, green bonds, sustainability-linked financing, brand management, work for companies with credible sustainability commitments, focus on sustainable products, packaging reduction, circular economy initiatives, or supply chain improvements. Help connect sustainability to real operational and product changes. So a consideration through all of these, regardless of industry or role, is that while working in that role, it doesn't necessarily make you a climate professional. So you want to be sure that you have real climate-related experience and then a clear narrative explaining how your skills can connect to climate impact. Ask yourself, what transferable skills am I building? How do they connect to climate solutions? Recognize that you may also touch, some high emitting sectors or, in the energy sector, and how you navigate that will matter for your long-term story. So be thinking about, what is my narrative? What does this mean for long term? And if you do spend several years without any climate exposure, it will be harder to pivot. So be thinking about these first roles as skill building and creating optionality for you in the future for long term. Your first post-MBA roles, probably not your final destination. Be intentional about skill stacking. Consulting builds strategy and systems thinking. We've heard that. Banking builds finance and infrastructure expertise. Brand management builds product and consumer adoption capabilities. These skills transfer directly into climate. Scaling climate solutions, financing clean infrastructure, driving adoption of sustainable products. Maintain that constant climate thread through your personal and professional life. Volunteer for internal sustainability initiatives. Build climate literacy, carbon accounting, climate tech. Stay involved. Again, alumni networks, climate communities, have side projects, have a fellowship, advise some startups. That your transition that way will feel more like a continuation of what you're already doing and not a complete reset. Be careful of roles that maybe label sustainability without that meaningful impact. Greenwashing can also apply to roles or jobs, careers. Avoid work that's climate adjacent, but it's not building you those transferable skills that will make you successful. Don't lose momentum. If this is something that you really care about, you need to make sure that you will have that long-term commitment. A traditional role can absolutely be a launch pad into climate, but only if you treat it that way. And I think we've heard it's not just in the title, it's whether you intentionally build climate relevant skills, experiences, and relationships along the way. Thanks.
Fantastic advice. Thank you, Maggie. And our last question, what are the best opportunities for me to lead on climate and sustainability while I'm a student? Melissa?
Yeah, thanks, Jess. I really love this question. I'll try to keep it brief because I know everyone's eager to talk to you all and talk to students. I think the most important thing to remember is that as a student, you have a lot of power and a lot of potential on campus. And there's a few different ways where you can be a climate leader and a sustainable leader while you're a student. So first of all, in the classroom, you are a really important part of helping to integrate climate and sustainability into curriculum. So a few ways that you can be doing that is asking questions in the classroom. So raising your hand, asking questions about the relevance of the particular topic or coursework to climate and to sustainability is really important. You're benefiting your classmates because you're helping them to understand just how important a factor climate is, but you're also sending a signal to the faculty instructors that climate is important, it's top of mind for students, and it needs to be a part of the curriculum. Secondly, one of the things that many of our students do that is incredibly valuable for them in terms of their learning and their development, but also helps to build some momentum for sustainability and climate in the classroom is they partner with faculty to write case studies. So if you're finding that the case studies that are being used in your classes maybe are not dipping into the climate realm of the topic, I think that's an opportunity for you to talk to your faculty members, talk to your professors, and express some interest in partnering with them in the development of case studies. Faculty members are always eager to do that, and they love partnering with students on it. Secondly, I would say take advantage of the opportunity to seek out electives outside of the business school as part of your coursework. Look to your policy schools, your environment schools. Arts and humanities courses are all very, very important. So not only are you building your breadth of knowledge and understanding, but you can also be bringing your business training and knowledge and skills to those class discussions and helping other students on campus understand how important a role the markets are in advancing whatever the issue may be around climate and sustainability. So definitely take advantage of the electives and think critically about what's going to serve you well and how you might be able to help in those classrooms as well. And then more broadly, I think Brian used a phrase that I really loved, grow where you're planted. Be thinking about how you can engage in on-campus sustainability efforts. So hopefully the university that you'll be attending will have climate targets, will have carbon neutrality goals. Be thinking about how might you contribute to the advancement of those goals. So here at Michigan, for example, students are a really integral part of our on-campus sustainability. We are a massive organization. There's a lot, our operations and finance impacts on climate are really significant. We have some very lofty and ambitious climate goals as a university campus, and our university leadership needs help in meeting those goals. So students are a really important part of that ecosystem. So be thinking about how you might engage in on-campus climate initiatives, activities, and efforts. And then lastly, off campus, be thinking about how you can start to build your voice as a climate leader. Elise mentioned industry conferences. Those are really important to attend. If you have the opportunity to do so, take advantage of discounted student membership, registration fees. A lot of industry conferences offer opportunities to volunteer, so you can attend for a very free or very reduced ticket them out. And then while you're at those conferences, do all the same things. Raise your hand, ask questions, be a part of the conversation. And then you will have a voice and a perspective, and you can take advantage of the time and the opportunity as a student to build that voice as a climate thought leader. Do some writing, try to get that published either on LinkedIn or through your university student blog series if they have them. But start to build your voice and start to build your presence as a climate leader. So those are a few ideas. Happy to talk offline about others, but most importantly, you do have power and you do have potential as a student to be a leader, and so I encourage you to take advantage of that.
What a great note to end on. Thank you, Melissa. Before we transition into the breakout rooms, I just want to thank all of our school representatives for sharing their expertise on these topics. I hope you all realize how incredible this group of educators is and the fantastic amount of information that they just shared with you. If you missed it, we will be sharing the recording of this, which will also include all the links in the chat after the session. So feel free to come back and check and reference back as you need to after the fact. And I think, we can really all agree that there's some incredible opportunities for students to integrate climate into their MBA and ultimately into their careers. And I hope that as we move on from this event today, you're leaving inspired, energized, and ready to use your careers to contribute to those climate solutions. I'm also sure you have many more questions than what we've discussed so far, and so excited to transition to that breakout portion of our session. Please engage with ClimateCAP. I've got our LinkedIn, our Instagram, our YouTube up here. We've also got a LinkedIn group for current MBAs called the Climate Community of MBAs. We'd love to have you join us in those as well. I'm going to open up the breakout rooms. You have the ability to come and go as you please. So I encourage you to drop into multiple rooms, talk to multiple different schools. You can connect with anyone that you'd like to for the next 27 minutes or so. And then you also have the contact information from each school in the handout that we sent out earlier. Feel free to reach out to me if you need help with that as well, and I can connect you to the school representatives. When the session's done at 1:30 Eastern, there's no need for you to come back to this main room. You can feel free to drop whenever you're ready. But I'm going to go ahead and open the rooms, and please, they're labeled by the school name. Feel free to jump in and out and let me know if you have any questions. I'll stay here in the main room if you need anything. Thank you all for being here today, and enjoy your conversations.